Hi folks, this is Vicki at patternprincess.com. Today I want to show you how to do the basket weave stitch. This is so beautiful. And if you can do front post double crochet and back post double crochet, you can do this pattern. So here's my sample. I'm using Furls Wanderer yarn today, and the color I'm using is Moonbeam, and that's what the sample is done into. And I used a size I hook, 5.5 millimeter. I just think that this is just a gorgeous pattern. And I did a chunky blanket using this stitch pattern, and I think you'll like it. So let's get going. Okay, this pattern is worked in multiples of 8 plus 4. For this sample here, I did, I gotta think about it. I think I did 28 stitches for the sample here. And so today though, for our purposes, we're just going to do, let's do 16 plus 4, that makes 20. Let's do 20 chain stitches. So we just start out with chain stitches. We'll get our slip knot on our yarn and our loop on our hook, and then we'll just do 20 chain stitches. So we yarn over and draw the yarn through the loop, and that's your first chain stitch. So we'll just continue on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that should be 20. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to, in the first row, we're just going to work a row of double crochets. And we're going to work on the 4th stitch from the chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That 4th stitch in the chain, we're going to work a double crochet. So I've yarned over, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, draw it through. We have 3 loops on the hook, and we're going to yarn over, draw through 2, and yarn over, draw through 2. Now the first 3 stitches that we skipped, that counts as a double crochet, and this counts as a double crochet. So we're just going to do it all the way across. So yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, draw through, yarn over, draw through 2 loops, and draw through 2 loops. Okay, and we're just going to continue this all the way across. So if you know how to double crochet, you can skip to the next row. But this is, it just uses fundamental stitches to create such a lovely pattern. Whoops. And I'm just going to finish working this across. All I'm doing is my double crochets. And I'm going to meet you on the end over here, okay? Over on the, right over here. And then we'll start row 2. Okay. Row 1 of your double crochet stitches is complete. And now we're going to turn it. You could either do your chain 3 that we're going to do next year before you turn it, or after. I generally like to do it after, and I use it as the beginning of my next row because I can remember then if it's counts or doesn't count as a stitch. So that's the way I prefer doing it. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that does count as your first double crochet. Now we're going to yarn over, and we're going to take a look. We got these posts here. This is called a post. Normally you would work your stitches a lot of times into your first 2 loops. We're going to be working around these posts, okay? So we're going to, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a front post double crochet. And we're going to do this, we're going to do 4 of them. So we go in front of this post here, go behind this post, that's the stitch that we want to be working on, and really in front of the next post. Okay, yarn over, draw through. Now we're going to finish off a double crochet just like normal. So there's our first front post double crochet, and we're going to, it looks kind of wonky right now. It's okay, it's going to look good. Now we're going to go to the next stitch. So we go underneath the post that we want to work on, but it's in front of the post next to it. Okay, so now we're going to do the second one. That's 2. Go to the next one. 3, 4. whoopsies, I missed a loop on my yarn. Okay, we're going to do that again. We're going to do number 4 again. Okay, so now we have 4, we have this first chain 3, then we have 4 front post double crochets. Now we're going to do 4 back post double crochets. So we yarn over, and now what you're doing is you're going behind the posts that are adjacent to the one you want to be working on. This is the one you want to be working on. So we're going in front of that, but behind the others. Yarn over, draw it through, and then make your the rest of your double crochet. And we're going to do that again. So we got to go behind the other ones, in front of that one. Draw our yarn through, and then we finish off the double crochet. That's 2. We're going to do it again. 3, and then one more time. And if you notice, as I'm working it, once I do the back post, I kind of like, I even turn my work so I can do it easier. If I don't turn my work, I tend to get snarled up in the top loop. I tend to grab one, and that just, you know, might be how I crochet. So that works for me. So yarn over, and now we're going to do 4 front posts. And all that we're going to do is continue alternating between 4 front post double crochet and 4 back post double crochet. Okay. 3, and then we have one more set of 4 back post. Here's a front post double crochet, and then we're going to do one more set of back post double crochet. Okay. 1, 2, 3, get that one here, and then we're going to do a double crochet on top of the top chain of the first chain 3. Actually, in this case, it would be the top chain of the first ones that we skipped from the first row that when we worked in our chain stitches. So now we have row 2 complete. It's not looking like much yet, but we just have alternating front post and back post double crochets. Okay, now we're going to go to row 3. Okay, I've turned my work, and we're always going to start with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That counts as your first stitch. Now, because we did a front post last time, double crochet, that's how we're going to start this time. And you can tell this is sticking towards you, so that's the front. This is a back post. It's, let me show. You can see this little ridge here. The back post is sticking away from you. That's a back post. So in this third row here, we are going to follow, you can let the stitches tell you what you need to do. We're going to follow the same stitch pattern that we had in row 2. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to do 4 front post double crochets. There's 1, 2. Make sure you just get behind the post and don't grab a whole bunch of other stuff like I almost did there. 3 and 4. Okay. Now you can feel and see your way. Kind of pull it apart if you have to. So my next one I'm going to work is right here, and that's a back post. So you're going to yarn over, get our hook inserted, and then bring our loops through and finish your double crochet. And this is a stitch too where you don't want to have really tight stitches. You don't want to have them too loose either, but you don't want to have them so tight that it's hard to get into these spaces. Just try and have even stitches that are not on the tight side. Now we're going to 4 front post double crochet, and you see I had to lift that stitch up a little bit so I didn't grab the stitches behind it. And then one more front post, and then we're going to go to 4 back post double crochet, and then I want to explain your options for the next row. 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to insert my hook. Sometimes it's hard to get into the stitch here, and sometimes I'll actually like cheat and kind of go down this way. And so I just cheated. Okay, so now we have row 3 complete. Now, as I look at this, because I did 4 rows, my repeating pattern between the front post and the back post was 4 rows. So I want this to look like a square. So if I kind of just concentrate on one of the sections, I think right now it looks like a square after doing 3 rows. You could continue the pattern that you're doing here for another 1 or 2 rows, and you could make it look more rectangular. If you don't think that yours looks like a square yet, you could add another row to make it square of what we just did, which would be a repeat of row 3, all right? But I think that this looks like a square already. And it also, when I worked on my chunky blanket, it was a square already at 3, because your height of your double crochet stitches are going to be different than the stitch count, the gauge for your stitches across. And that just happens to be how my pattern is coming out. So I do 4 stitches across and then 3 rows up. So now we are going to work the opposite pattern, because now I'm going to change it, of what we just did for when we work row 4, 5, and 6. This is a repeating pattern then for me of every 3 rows I'm changing. And then what I've been doing, I didn't bring my stitch markers with me here. I actually put a stitch marker here. Because then if you stop your work, I found that I don't care if I have medium weight yarn or chunky yarn, I can't really tell which part of the pattern I'm on. It's kind of hard on this one for me to tell even. So put a stitch marker in the row that you get done. So there'll be 1, 2, 3. And then you know every time you have a stitch marker in, that's the end of your 3rd row, and the next row you got to switch. Okay, so that's a big hint that'll help you be accurate. So let me get a little bit more yarn, and we're going to go on to row 4. Okay, let's work row 4. So we got our chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we have the front posts, double crochets, but I want to make sure that I change the direction. So now we're going to do a back post. Wherever you see a front post, you're going to do a back post. Wherever you see a back post, you're going to do a front post. So we're changing the direction. So we're going to go behind this post, ahead of the one we want to work on, and behind the next. Bring our yarn through. This first one's always tricky. And then we finish off the double crochet. So here's 1. We're changing direction. 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you see how I just changed direction? You can see that ridge right there. And now we're going to do a front post, because this was back. We're going to do a front post double crochet on each one of these. 2, 3. Okay. And of course, now the next one we have 4 front posts. So we're going to do 4 back posts. And then 1 more. Okay, now we have a last set, and it's 4 back posts, so we're going to do 4 front posts. And then we have 2 more rows that finish off this pattern. And then what you would do is for this pattern, you would repeat rows 1 through 6. And we're going to put our double crochet on the top chain 3 of the previous row. Now let me stop and show you. So this is after row 4. See how it's starting to take shape now? You can start to see all of the squares taking shape. So we're going to do 2 more rows. Okay, now we're here at row 5. We're going to chain 3, counts as our first double crochet. Now for row 5, we want to follow the same pattern that we just did. So now we have the back post double crochet first. So we're going to do the same stitches, because because remember the posts are pointing away from you. So we are going to do back posts because that's what we did the last time. Because we're going to make our squares. Okay, 4 of those. Now we have 4 front posts, and we are going to do 4 front posts. Oops. And then, whoop, I almost missed my last front post. Yeah, make sure that you get it. Okay, see that's how they're starting to shape up. And then the next one is back posts. And all you do is continue alternating. Now, you could start this with a different stitch count. You could do more than your 4 sets of patterns. If you wanted this bigger, you could use 10 double crochet, and then switching off would be 10 front posts and 10 back posts as you go. You could do different rows, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to experiment with a few different stitch patterns to see how I like things. And of course I'll be sharing those patterns with you too. And let me get my hook in the last stitch here and do my double crochet. Okay, so here's after row 5. Let me lay this down here so you can see it without this other yarn. See this? It's starting to look there. This is a little bit, not quite a square yet. So we're going to turn it and we're going to repeat row 5 here for row 6. All right, let's do row 6. Whoopsies, if I can get my yarn on my fingers. All right, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, the posts are away from you. We're going to start with the back post. We're going to do the same stitch. Okay. All right. We have our first set of 4 done, and now we have our front post. It's on your side, facing you. So then we follow the same stitch stitch pattern, and do our front post. I do like this Wander yarn. It's a little bit, it's very soft, very luxurious feeling, but it's a little bit slick, and I do find that it tends to want to work off my hook sometimes. But I do love the feel of it. And I wish that they had bigger skeins of it, so I didn't have to, with more yards, so I didn't have to join yarn so often when I'm making a bigger project using it. Okay, and then one more set of front posts. And I'm going to show you on the sample I have laying here that I had shown you initially. I did one more round of the 3 rows. So then you can see a little bit better too, that stitch pattern. Now that we've gone through it, come on, get in there. See, I have a stitch that's a little bit tight. We're gonna have to, there we go, push it through. Okay, so let's put this down. So we have row 1 through 6, and you see how we have our squares? Here's a square that's nice to see. And it's a square on the sides, and I can turn it around, and it's the same pattern on both sides. The squares are just, that pop out at you, are just on the opposite places. Okay, so where this is square is this side, turn it over, and the other square is next to it. So isn't that beautiful? And then here's the original one I showed you that has one more row of the pattern. So I hope that you make this basket weave stitch for yourself. And remember, you can switch up how many stitches you start with, or you could switch up how many rows you do the repeat of the same stitches before you change the direction. So I will have the written pattern on the website, and it's at patternprincess.com. Please make sure you come check us out, and let's make some pretty patterns using the basket weave. Take care. Thanks for watching.